Welcome, everyone. Happy Sunday. You made it through another week. And for some of us, we made it through another weekend, which can be just as harrowing, depending on your your social needs and all those things. It's so good to see you. Welcome to the Servant Leadership Association for Music Sunday night gathering. We are so happy that you're here, and we're so happy to have this amazing guest. Welcome. Hi, Dylan. Hi there. How are you? Good to see you. Oh, there's Kyle from Omaha. Good to see you, buddy. Glad you're here. Awesome. There's Paul. Paul, how cold is it right now?
It's a balmy 22.
That's a
Do you
heat
want to know?
wave.
Do you want to know what our temperature is outside right now?
Yeah.
68.
68.
Did you? Oh, there you go. You're back. The video just cut right there.
3
I
months
got, you
we'll
got
have
mad
it.
and left. uh, well, honestly, I would trade you a little bit. What if we traded and we both ended up around 40? I think that'd be nice.
It's a deal.
That'd be good. There's Miss Julie, my wonderful email buddy each week. Thank you, my dear. It's so good to see you. And Maurice coming off his big birthday week and performances all around and all those good things. And hey, it is so great to see you. I think everybody's kind of in now. And oh, Marguerite, hi there. How are you doing, my dear? Good to see you. Good to see you. Well, we are just, as we say in the South, we are tickled to have our guest with us tonight. Mr. Richard Floyd has been creating, and inspiring music for a number of years, about 63. So we're excited to have him speak to us. Before anything, though, we want to hear from our esteemed founder and executive director, Mr. Tim Lautzenheiser. So please, Dr. Tim, give us our words of wisdom to start off our meeting.
Thanks. Good to see everybody. Bobby's right. We're going to have a great night. The words of wisdom tonight, because I hear this after, in fact, Mr. Floyd and I were just talking about Texas Music Educators, which was 2 weeks ago. First of all, if you have not been, you got to put it on your bucket list. It's our Disney World. You just can't believe how good it is. If nothing else, just go to the rehearsals and listen to these all-state kids that knock you out. It's just, they're great. And all the clinics are great, et cetera. Okay, to the point. People will come up after a session and go, Tim, that's great. Yeah, I really like that. But I don't think you understand my situation. Okay, what do we got? And they'll say, well, I'm only one person and I can't make a difference. I'm just one person, Tim. And the irony of it is that the only thing that does make a difference is one person. Most of us are on this screen tonight because of a one person, or two or three one persons, our mentors, who somewhere along the line said, you have talent. And you go, really? And they go, yeah, you could be a music teacher. And well, really? And most of us were the ones that hung out in the band room or the orchestra room or the choir room. And it became part of our lives. And if it hadn't been for that one person, would we have done this? And there's a lot of question marks there, aren't there? And, I'm not sure the English teacher has to worry about that. But our students are there as a reflection of our recruiting. That math teacher doesn't have to worry about that. There's going to be people in those seats the next semester. But that's why we all know programs that were 300 and in 2 years they were down to 35. Well, what's the only variable factor? It's the one person. We only may be one person in the world, but we can be the world to one person. And I think that's the opportunity we have that other people don't have. So just stand away from it a little bit and go, what can I do tomorrow for somebody that makes my one person special in their life? Because we're all just one person. Thanks, Bobby, for letting me have this time.
Uh, I swear, Tim, I think that I could hear you read from the ingredients of the box, a box of stovetop, and I'd still get a little emotional. But then when you do stuff, I thought I heard all your stuff. I thought by now I've heard all the material. And man, each week you just keep bringing more and more. Thank you for being an inspiration to all of
Well,
us.
what's ironic about this, Bobby, and we're all going to find this out in a little bit. Our guest tonight is a one person that has shifted the standards of music education across the nation, around the world. And and I had my subject picked out before I knew who was going to be there. So it is so exciting to have Mr. Floyd here, because certainly he's one person that made a difference in my life, and I know all of yours too. So win-win.
Absolutely. Well, this is the time in the program where we would normally do kind of our crafting culture tips, that more hands-on, what can I do in the classroom tomorrow? If you remember, Scott Rush turned that over to us, and we asked Gary Gribble, master educator from Cobb County, Georgia, to take over that role. Well, he is traveling a little bit, and he's going to be with us at the later half of the meeting, hopefully. So we're going to shift that to the end of the night so we can send that with you, and we're going to get right into our guest speaker. Our guest speaker is no stranger to any type of band room, band hall, chorus, orchestra, it doesn't matter, because of his role with UIL. If you don't know what UIL is, it's the University Interscholastic League that really helps manage all of the extracurriculars in Texas. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Floyd, it is athletics, it's pretty much all the things. And
Correct.
I don't think I would be overstating this saying that Texas would not be what we all know Texas to be musically without Richard Floyd. And I know there are others, Mr. Floyd, but you stop shaking your head. I'm speaking truth. Just to give you a little bit of information about him, he has been was the music director and conductor for 35 years of the Austin Symphonic Band. They played at the Midwest Clinic several times as a community band, which I wouldn't want to do that to save my life. It's scary enough with the kids that I can control. I can't imagine the adults, because I've done a community band before, and it was, you know what, we're going to drink after the rehearsal, everybody. So I can't imagine you getting them ready for that. Held positions as director of bands at Baylor University. They're pretty good. And professor of conducting at the University of South Florida. In the state of Texas, he was director of music for UIL for 29 years, managing music competitions for thousands of schools. And I would say probably in the tens of thousands of students were affected by some of the decisions that he made. Some of his awards and honors are: he's named Texas Bandmaster of the Year in 2006, received the Midwest Clinic Medal of Honor in 2011, which is just incredibly prestigious, the the CBDNA Lifetime Achievement Award, and gang, there is a Service Leadership Award named specifically for him, the Richard Floyd Service Leader. So who better to speak to us than this? The final thing I would tell you is he has two wonderful books and a third one that's coming out. The first one's called The Artistry of Teaching, and David Vanderwalker shared with me he always makes sure that his student teachers get a copy of that book before they leave him. And the second, The Seven Deadly Sins of Music Making, which is scarily right on. So everybody, without further ado, I could keep talking about him all night because he's done so many things, but please, I'll let the man speak for himself. Everybody, please give a warm slam welcome to Mr. Richard Floyd.
Well, thank you, Bobby. Thank you so much. After all that accolades, I better come up with something important to say.
You better. I know.
The first thing I want to say, I'm going to pick on you for a second. And in reality, you didn't tell me when you asked me to do this that I was going to have to follow Dr. Tim. Nobody ever wants to follow Dr. Tim. But Tim, my friend, I'll try my hardest. Thank you, Bobby, for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful enterprise. You have no way of knowing this, but when you first contacted me, Cheryl and I were in Mexico, hanging out at a very nice resort down there. And we were so mellow that you could have asked me for $50,000 for your band. And I probably would have said, why not, man? I'll do that right there. So you missed a great opportunity, but I'm just thrilled to be here. And I can't dig too deeply into my thoughts with that. You were first sharing a story. I think I'm correct about this. The first time we met was in an honor band somewhere up in North Carolina, or I'm not sure where it was, but it was somewhere up in that part of the country. And you and I and Cheryl were there to conduct the three honor bands. First time we had met, we had a great time. I so much enjoyed your rehearsal. There were a couple of times there were breaks that I could come over and hang and learn from you. And that was joyful each time that it occurred. But we had a driver that took us around during the entire time that we were there. And he was going to drop off Bobby and I at a site, then he was going to take Cheryl to another site. And he said, well, you guys get out here, then I'm going to take Linda to her middle school rehearsal site. And he continued, and we didn't ever stop to think, well, maybe we should tell him he's got the name wrong. We just let it ride for the whole time. And to this day, anytime I cross paths with Bobby, the first thing he asks is, well, how is Linda doing?
And what's great is if anyone else is in the room, they get really nervous really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. But before we talk about some things I want to share, there's one point I want to interject, and it actually fits into all the people I see on the screen right now. And it fits in with the reality that Bobby and I and Cheryl didn't know each other. And then 3 days later, we were dear friends. And it was because of that passion we have for the lives that we live. But it's one of those things that I just have to share often, anytime I get the opportunity. When I was on faculty at Baylor University, there was a guest artist residency that was coming in, and there was going to be a big reception for that person that night. And my wife could not attend. So I invited my daughter. She was 13 years old at the time. I said, well, Chris, why don't you come with me? You can be my date for the night. And so we went. It was a beautiful evening. Everybody was just friendly and gracious and so forth. And we got in the car and we were heading home. And she said, Daddy, I'm so glad that you are in music. And I said, well, Chris, why is that? She said, because we get to meet so many wonderful people. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Let's not ever take that for granted. Well, that said, a little about me. I started teaching in 1962. And my initial goal, I was going to be a Texas kick butt trophy hunting band director. That was what I thought was what I was supposed to do. And that first 10 years, I evolved, thank God, and no longer felt the trophy quest. I just wanted to make a difference in the lives of others through the art of music. And that was a big change for me. And now if I fast forward to today, at one time, I had a book this thick of all the things I was going to get done, all the boxes I was going to check. And the older I've gotten, that list has gotten thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. And now it's down to just two things. Anytime I am with students or directors, I want to help them to make the best music they're capable of and to take them someplace they have never been before. That's it. And we can frame that any way we want to, and we can put it in boxes and big kinds of things. But really and truly, that's it. That is all there is. Now, I asked Bobby after we agreed to do this what I should talk about. That was a pretty dangerous thing for Bobby to do, to be very honest. Because, tonight, if I wanted to, I could give you an analysis of the latest work by Viet Quang. I could talk about the contrast between art and craft in our repertoire. I could talk about my pet peeve regarding how much time and money we spend on marching band, and my distaste for the term educational music. And you may say, what's wrong with the term educational music? I don't care about educational music. I want art music that I can share with young students that will give them an artistic experience. So I just love to get rid of that term. I'm not about notes that just teach fingerings and technique and tuning. I want to touch their souls. Or I could talk about the best California wines under $30. I could do that. But instead, I want to share some thoughts with you that apply to all levels of our music making. And those are the qualities of a happy workshop and the priceless value of being an artist leader. And I think that there are two essential qualities that are omnipresent in any enterprise associated with a happy workshop or being an artist leader. Those two elements are passion and inspiration. Passion and inspiration. So let's begin with passion. And let me be very, very clear. I'm not speaking of a passion that has to do with the craft of music. It's not a passion for finger aerobics. It's not a passion for the revered rehearsal ritual or the limitless boxes we check in the activity that we call band. Those are all important. They're all an essential part of our lives every day, but they are not the real stuff. To me, passion is defined as a strong feeling or enthusiasm or excitement or devotion for some activity, object, or concept. And to me, the key word in that statement is the word feeling. It's that internal fire that we have because of it. And Bobby mentioned a third book that I'm working on right now. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole by any means. But one of the things that I've been doing a lot of research on and thinking about is the reality that there's a difference between emotions and feelings. Those are two very distinct, different human experiences. Emotions are those goosebump moments that we have that catch us on fire and give us that incredible connection with what it is that we're doing. And research tells us, I didn't know this until I started digging into it, emotions don't last but about 90 seconds. It's that pop that says, oh man, I'm loving what I'm doing right here, right now. Feelings are what we take from the emotions. It's what we remember. It's what we can think back on at another time. I do evaluations for the National Concert Band Festival each year. And it's one of my most treasured experiences I get to do. But I always take a moment at the beginning after they've just given their hearts and souls out on that beautiful concert hall, and they come into the rehearsal hall and I'm supposed to visit with him. The first thing I have them do is close their eyes and say, think back on this last hour that you were on that stage. Think about a special solo that somebody did that was the best that ever played it, or the way you felt when you've achieved that level of beauty on it. And I said, put that somewhere in your heart so you can always remember it. And you can come back to that moment and a year from now and remember and smile. And you can come back 2 years from that and remember and smile. Then all of a sudden you're a grown adult, you have a family, you have a child that's experiencing band, and you can think back to that moment and remember and smile. The feelings are what matter. Now, there is the perception of passion. People understanding or recognizing, man, that's so passionate, that person is so passionate, often develops gradually through engagement and reflection. It's through coming back for more and more. But if it is perceived as being sincere by others, they recognize it, they embrace it, and they respond to it. Now, a caveat, you can't fake it. It is genuine or it's a lie. I heard it was on NPR radio actually several years ago. It was an interview with a country and Western singer. And talking about their achievements and the amount of music they had done and how successful they were. And at some point, the person doing the interview says, help me understand, every tune that you record, every time you put something down and release it, it goes to the top of the charts. How do you keep doing that again and again and again? You know what the guy said with his Western twang? I don't take on nothing I can't feel. If students can't perceive that feeling that we have to recalibrate who we are to make that kind of connection. So now what about this term inspiration? You know, there's countless leadership styles. Pressure, rational persuasion. Let me explain to you why we're going to do this, because it's going to be so good. Appealing to loyalty. Be loyal to me. Be loyal to each other. Let's do this together. Or remain true to traditions. This is the way we've always done it. These are all legitimate leadership styles that have been studied and codified. And the final one, and of course, none of us would ever do this, but do it or there will be consequences. All those are styles of leadership. But there's been major research that's been done that suggests that there's one style of leadership that excels far beyond all the others. In fact, there's actually 8, and I'm not going to go through all of those. But the ones: pressure, rational persuasion, appeal to loyalty, remain true to tradition, do it or there will be consequences. None of those will touch the participants, the people you're trying to lead. It will all be less than 50% that will say, I'm all in. Now, there would be more than that to say, okay, if I got to do it, I can do it. I'll make it work because you told me I have to do it. But there's only one that exceeds, based on this research, that exceeds 50%. And you know what, my friends? It goes all the way up to 90%. Inspiration. Inspiring others through what you believe and how you act and what you value. Now, inspirational people, they don't just talk about what is important to them. They act upon it. They show it. And remember, others are not inspired by what you say and what you do. You can say and do all you want to, but others are inspired to, and because they embrace the why of what you believe and say and do. It's that internal sense that they make connections with. It is what they perceive you believe, your passion, that inspires them. Martin Luther King, he was incredibly successful in his vision, not because he had a plan or a scheme, because he had a dream. If others perceive you have a dream, they will follow you. They will benefit from you. They will learn from you. Now, let's look at for a minute about how these qualities might play out in what I call a happy workshop. And now let us not forget that at its core, you know, music making is human interaction. That's all it is. And from my personal belief, it's a human bonding agent, and it's in our DNA. It's not something we just bump into. It's something that is a part of the human experience. And so what are some of the things we can do to make that happen? This is actually a quote from Theodore Roosevelt. And all the years I was at the UIL, I had this little statement on a index card right on the front of my phone. And the statement was this: no one cares. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And the more we can guide students to know that we care, the more they will embrace who we are and what we want to share. Now, some of the ways we can do that is that I am convinced that it is essential that we rehearse with a positive context. And I talk a lot about what I call the gloom and doom of don'ts. There's not a person on this Zoom that likes to be told, don't do this. Don't do that. And I made up my mind decades ago now that I was going to extract the word don't from any communication that I had with students in rehearsals. And I would like to think that you could observe me rehearsing for an honor band or for a 2-hour clinic, and you would never hear me say the word don't. It's always do. What can we do? How do we take it to the next level? I'm always going to strive to put things in a positive context. Now, I used to not be that way. It's an acquired skill. If you value it, you can refine it, you can learn it, you can make it a part of who you are. So strive in every way you can to figure out ways to put things in a positive context. A second thing that I think is incredibly important is eye contact. Eye contact in human interaction becomes deeper and more intimate. That connection that we make. And I would argue that if we were in a room someplace and we were having this conversation, I promise you by this point, I would have looked every one of you in the eye and I would have talked just to you. And I would have allowed everybody else to listen in. That connection changes the dynamic of how we value and how people perceive that they value, how we value who they are. And I think too, let me jump back first. May have a page turned over. Yeah. Sorry about that. I have an excuse. I am really old. I am really old. The notion of always rehearsing with a musical motive. Always have a musical reason for refinement. I do not rehearse intonation. I don't rehearse rhythmic precision. I address them, but only to how they connect with and enhance the music that is being performed. And again, I think that changes the whole chemistry of how students interact with that rehearsal and with the reasons that we're sitting there. Always have a musical reason for refinement. And the craft and skills only exist to serve the art of the music. They only exist to make the music beautiful. That's the only reason we do it. So the music first, always. And give them a reason. Can you raise the third in that chord a little bit, or lower the third in the chord, or raise the fifth, so it'll make the chord resonate and be more beautiful? Make a connection to why. And by golly, we stopped the dial. Check the box. Down we go. Let's go find a triplet we can't play in tempo. We have to go for the magic. Program music that allows students to feel and express. This pursuit of ever-ascending technical challenges and an intense focus on the mastery of craft leaves little time to explore the expressive qualities of the music we share with our students. So at times we need to back off on elevating the technical aspects of our music and just let them enjoy the flow of the music and the artistry of it. There's not a person on this Zoom right now that is sitting here and practicing and teaching and being a part of this wonderful art that we all share because they learned to play a chromatic scale of 144 or finally nailed a high C on the trumpet or found an alternate finger on the clarinet or got a new secret rosin that made their violin sing out. None of that stuff. It was because at some point, the way music made you feel. And let's face it, exploring expressive music making and elevating technical prowess can be musically exclusive. And if every piece is selected to advance technical mastery, there's little likelihood that students will be able to experience, much less appreciate or explore the musical qualities of what they are rehearsing beyond the technical conquest. And it's been my experience when you have to dig in, that doesn't mean you don't have to get down and dirty. And I can do the down and dirty with anybody. There's no question about that. But you know what? When you're trying to master that intentional, you think about it. Sometimes look at your students. When you're really digging into that piece, or you're just trying to finally get it up to tempo, they're working hard. You see anybody smiling? They're working. But finally achieve it. Or take a simple piece. Take a band that just got through playing Candide and then let them play rippling watercolors and not have to worry about a fingering or a range and just look at the faces then. That's what they remember. Benjamin Zander, if you know that name, orchestral conductor, he's got several great TED Talks that are worth looking at. If you've never seen them, just Google them and go look at them. But he talks about if their eyes are shining, you know you're doing it. If their eyes, I can walk into a clinic rehearsal in 5 minutes, I have a pretty good idea how it's going to go by looking at eyes. Now let's segue into my notion of an artist leader for a minute. And if you will bear with me, yes, I have had notes as we've gone along because I'm trying to stay on task. But this next little segment, if you don't mind, I'm going to read most of it to you. And it's a part of what Bobby talked about early, this collaboration that I and Tom Duffy and Craig Kirchhoff did with Frank Battisti at the Midwest back in December. And it has to do with a book that Frank Battisti has just finished. So let me just indulge me. Let me read to you for a moment. Let me cite one experience that encapsulates a first encounter with an artist leader. The occasion was a summer camp at what was then known as West Texas State University in Canyon, Texas. Now, Canyon, Texas is not the end of the world, but close. In truth, you can see to the end of the world from the city limits of that town. At that point in time, I was a 28-year-old high school band director, deeply immersed in the Texas band culture as it existed in the 1960s. I could collect trophies and out-program the school band across town with the best of them. But with 6 successful years of teaching under my belt, I was just not feeling it. The guest conductor that week was the University DOB from the Midwest, and I was playing in the director's band with other camp faculty. By chance, Salvation is Created was the first work schedule for rehearsal. That first encounter with that conductor was a revelation for me. What I saw and experienced was a combined level of passion and inspiration. There's those words again. I had never witnessed before. There was no hype, as I was accustomed to. The passion for the music was not anything he physically said or did. It was an aura of genuine care for the artistry of the music that radiated from his being and his commitment to infusing the musicians with that internal passion. It was contagious. It inspired me beyond anything I could have imagined. That conductor was Bob Reynolds, and he was then at the University of Wisconsin. And of course, we all know we lost Bob a couple of weeks ago, and I deeply miss him. But now I have come to believe that that's what leaders do. Your awareness of their passion inspires you. Because of that fervor, they unlock new ways of thinking, they open new doors of human expressiveness, and they take you somewhere you have never been before. Now, in the twilight of my life, I've come to realize that these qualities were woven into the fabric of every artist leader who ever influenced me. And I frequently tell myself, and others for that matter, to be prepared every day for someone to enter your life who will enrich the trajectory of their existence. And this actually goes back to something Tim said in our opening. And every day you can be that leader in the lives of colleagues and students. I would argue that really what sums all this up almost entirely is this statement, and I'll say this in closing. The greatest mark of leadership is not how far the leader goes. I'll say that again. The greatest mark of leadership is not how far the leader goes, but how far others go because of the leader. The greatest mark of leadership is not how far the leader goes, but how far others go because of the leader. And Bobby, I'll throw it back to you with that closing comment.
That was wonderful, Mr. Floyd. We knew it would be, and you never cease to inspire in all the things that you do. My friends, we oftentimes at this point would break into some smaller groups and kind of process some of the things that are there, but we kind of thought that with tonight, with having Richard Floyd here, I would bet that there are going to be some questions that people would like to ask. And so I think if David and Steve will help me out and kind of monitor the chat, if you have a question for Mr. Floyd, please go ahead and put that there. And since I'm the one speaking, I get to ask the first one. Because this is something that I would love to hear from you and even Tim as well. I think we in the trenches, us common folk, see people like you, and you're talking about inspiration, and it seems like you just have a wellspring of that never stops. And I know for me, boy, I feel like I'm trudging through the mud sometimes, and I feel those spaces where I don't have it. What are the things that either of you do that kind of are replenishing you, that fill your cup? And I know some of it is seeing kids and their reactions, but I would say over the years you've even had to find other ways to supplement. Like what are the things that help inspire you?
Tim, you want to?
They hear me all the time. I'm eager to hear what you have to say. I'm on your shirt tail, sir.
I understand that there's more than one time, many times, I've looked myself in the mirror and said, I'm a failure. I can't do this. I can't do it as well as I want to. I need to be better. I mean, that's part of, I think that's part of the journey. Actually, two thoughts that I would share. In fact, they were actually towards the end of my comments, and I knew we were running. I probably had gone too long on a couple of things, but there's a couple of things, other things that I think that we see in people that are infused with this passion for leadership. In addition to passion and inspiration, is vision. Having a vision for the music, for the collective artistry of the ensemble, for your personal experiences, for the individuals, and understand that that doesn't mean that every day is going to be happy. But there may be another word for the vision. We talked a minute ago about Martin Luther King. He had a dream. You can't tell me that he didn't wake up in the middle of the night sick at his stomach because it wasn't happening. But the continued perception of this is what we want to have happen. And the second thing I think is artists, leaders, any leader, any person that is living in our world, you must be a disciple of self-reflection. Always looking inward to assess and amplify your passion and enhance the refinements of yourself and the potential of others and the ultimate artistry of music making. I would ask any one of you that is on the Zoom right now, when was the last time you sat down quietly, turned your phone off, closed your eyes, and listened to a movement of the Mozart Grand Partita? Or listened to a wonderful, wonderful performing artist? Or listened to a performance of a Beethoven symphony? Just isolated in that world of music. Now, if you haven't done that, you're cheating yourself. And it's so easy for us to get all wrapped up in our world of fundraising and getting recordings done and making sure the buses are set up. All that stuff, that's the dues we have to pay, to have the joy of experiencing the artistry of music. But I think that we need to be better, do better at being good for ourselves. So if I want to sit down and have a glass of wine and listen to a Mahler symphony, I don't feel guilty about that at all. I know that when that experience is complete, I'm going to be a better teacher the next time I step in front of students or collaborate with the director. That's where the magic is. So you got to take time every once in a while to fill your tank. And it's okay to fail. God, man, I've failed so many times. You know, when you fail, you learn. You take it to the next level.
Isn't it interesting that we live in a world now where we have the phrase doom scrolling, and it's not just for kids. Doom scrolling is where you're on Instagram or TikTok and you start going down the rabbit hole. And you know, it can so easily be done. Our kids do it all the time, but I think we adults are just as guilty. And then you've sat there for an hour and you don't even know what you watched. It's all there. Whereas what you're saying is, and the glass of wine doesn't hurt at all, does it? But sitting down to listen to Mahler, listen to Alfred Watkins told me one year, he said, because I was kind of bemoaning the fact that marching band is such a big part of what we do. He said, you know what I do every summer? Before, at the end of the semester and the beginning of marching band, I go through and listen to every Beethoven symphony again, all 9. And he said, that's when I feel like I'm ready to go back, when I get through those. And I started doing that about, 15 years ago. And I may not get through all of them, but I get through enough. Tim, did you want to add something to that?
Well, I do, because I mean, the wisdom of Mr. Floyd, we cheat ourselves when we don't do that, but it passes off to our students. We cheat them as well. Inadvertently, nobody does it by intention, but the discipline of sitting down and getting your ears cleaned out by great musicians. Wow. There's inspiration there.
I love it. Steve and David, are you seeing any questions that are there in the chat that maybe we could throw at Mr. Floyd? We've got him off kilter a little bit. I was
No,
trying.
but I have a question for Richard.
Please.
So Dick, when you're teaching in Richardson, you went to WT, you had that transformational moment. How did you approach it to the students? Did you say anything to them, or did you start teaching differently? And what was their response to your change in approach to the music and to the program?
Yeah, Stu, that's a great question. It is, and to be very honest, um, I was already teaching that way. Really what Bob did for me was an affirmation. By pure blessed coincidence, both of us had the same coffee break in the morning each day, and there were very few other people that did. So all of a sudden, Dick and Bob were having these conversations, and not many people around. And the more we talked, the more I realized, well, if there's something wrong with the way I believe, at least there's two of us that believe this way. Because it was just, I had found somebody else that thought like I did about what was really important about what we were doing.
And Mr. Floyd, just to clarify, Bob was.
I'm sorry, Bob Reynolds.
Excuse, but there you go. Just wanted to make sure we all knew that.
Yes, yeah. But we had never met before, and it just one comment would lead to another, and one conversation would lead to another, and what he believed, I've discovered that that was the same thing I believed, but it just in his manifestation of that passion was a reassurance to me that that was a valid and an artful way to think about what it was that we did.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Paul, I think you have a question, and I know you've had your hand up. Why don't you go ahead and hit us with that next one?
Thanks. I just didn't know how to cogently type it in. I guess my question for you, Mr. Floyd, or anybody to answer is how have you stayed present for your students, knowing that you're one tiny little morsel of their entire life? They've got all their academics to worry about, all their athletics activities. They've got family, they've got jobs. You're trying to share that love for music, but how have you remained present for all the other aspects and not ask them to give up everything else just for them to be successful in the music endeavor?
Paul, I think one of the big things is I think you actually hit on a very important part, that we're only one small component of their life. But all I can say is that, let me put it this way: if I go in to do a rehearsal, I said this often to students when I was teaching on an everyday basis, whether it was in high school, at the university, when I was at Baylor, is the reality that during the time, and I would articulate it this very well, this same way, that you're looking at one of the luckiest guys on the planet. I love what I do. I'm blessed with family. I am blessed with a wonderful life. But please understand, for the hour that we're together, nothing on this planet is more important to me than you. I want to make that maybe too poetic, but in reality, I want to make that almost a spiritual connection. I want to make that time that we're together valuable to them, so they leave it with something that they continue to have a part of their life, and not say, well, I need more and I need more and I'm more. They gave me the gift of that hour, and I need to give them back something for that.
Wow.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I see that Mr. Gribble has joined us, and we definitely don't want to have his first run at giving us some crafting culture techniques for our tomorrow and the next week and the next month, those things that we can take directly into our classroom. Don't want to take anything away from that. So, Mr. Gribble, if you're ready, would you mind giving us your thoughts before we turn this off?
Absolutely. Am I audio on? Make sure everything's functioning here. All right. First of all, thank you so much to Scott and to Bobby and the gang for inviting me to be any part of this. And I cannot express how grateful I am to speak after that presentation by Richard Floyd. And now I'm going to look like the tennis shoes on the tuxedo. But that was wonderfully inspirational. I'm looking at this, and I hope this will be okay with everyone, sort of in the vein of what do I wish I knew when I was that younger teacher? And what did I eventually learn that would have helped me more had I learned it earlier in my career? And I think, I love mentoring students and just genuinely love sharing with young band directors, tips and things. So the one I wanted to share today is about how you approach planning for your program. And I learned this from a wonderful, wonderful percussion instructor that I was fortunate to hire. And she stayed with me almost 20 years at Pope in the high school program running our percussion studies. And the second year that she was with us, she said, "Can I sit down with you and have a conversation?" Sure. Comes in and she proceeds to lay out her 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year plan for the percussion department at our high school, from the curriculum that she wanted to develop, to the equipment that she would like to see purchased to help them do what they do, to the new ensemble she wanted to create over the next 3 to 5 years, to the number of students she'd like to see audition for honors and all state groups and all of this, and a meticulous plan for how every percussion student would learn the techniques of every single percussion instrument by the time they were in 10th grade so that they could play anything. And I felt so inadequate during that meeting because I had never done that for the entire program. And I was so busy in the day-to-day of operating and getting on the podium and putting out the immediate fires and dealing with the boosters and the busted thing we all do, as Mr. Floyd said earlier, that I had not just forced myself to sit down and take the time to do that planning. So I sat down and thought about it and said, okay, that is it. That is one of the things that is going to help us know where we are. First of all, it's going to create an idea of where we want to be. And it forced me to sit down and think about what is the vision for the future of the program. So came up with those 1, 3, and 5 year plans. And for the next 20 some odd years, that was a regular part of what we did with our entire staff, with everyone that worked with our students, is what's your plan for now, what's your plan for the immediate future, what's your plan through the distant future. Had I been intelligent, I would have picked up that that's usually one of the questions they ask you in a job interview and say, where do you see yourself in a year, 3 years, 5 years from now? But I didn't make that connection right away. So I learned that we must assess where we are and what we have at the moment. We have to look at what we want the program to be in its best state, what we can envision as being the pinnacle of where we want it to go. And then we have to look at that journey and how we get from point A to point B. So one of the wonderful things that we discovered along the way is the best plan is going to deviate, and something is going to hit just a little differently than you expected, or all of a sudden they're going to spring a new scheduling model on you, or your budget's going to change pretty dramatically, or the feeder pattern will change and you're not getting the same number of students anymore. Whatever that might be, you go back in, you reevaluate that plan every year and say, okay, now our 3 year plan is a little bit off target. Let's adjust some things and reevaluate that 3 year and then look ahead to the new 5 year plan of what we have. So it just became an ongoing study in where we are, what we want to do, and how we're going to get there. So if I can encourage teachers and the folks in the profession that haven't done something like that, I think it helps provide you with clarity on where you are. It helps provide the vision of where you want to be, and it forces you to sit down and make a concrete plan. And our plan included goals along the way of what we wanted to see done. It included what we would need financially, physically, who would we need to work with, how do we structure the curriculum that we're going to deliver, what is it that we're going to use to get us through these plans that we have. So that is my presentation this evening. And I learned that, like I say, a little bit too late in my mind. If I had learned that a few years earlier, things probably would have been a little bit smoother and easier. But a good solid 1, 3, 5 year plan with regular review and all of the steps that lead you through that, then I think that's something that you can really gain from. So,
Mr. Gribble, exactly what we wanted. Thank you so much, Gary. That's wonderful. That's exactly it. And it's one of those things where I didn't learn it until a few years later. So those of you that are in that 1st through 5 year teaching, it's okay. It's absolutely okay. And while we talk about those things, like I hope that you're hearing from Mr. Floyd, from Tim, from Gary, from all of us, is that no matter where you are, it's okay as long as you keep trying to get better. I think the only time that we truly fail is when we stop learning. And so that's wonderful things to think about. And Mr. Floyd, you've given us so much to process through tonight. I was actually just looking up how do I find this online, and we all remember that members get access to this from now on. You can go back, and I certainly will be doing this. I talked to Scott Rush. I was talking with him earlier, and his daughter is at the All-State Orchestra performance tonight, and that's why he sends his regrets about not being here. And I told him that he was making the right decision. It's her first. He said, but I'll be sure to catch the video of that. So I think many of us will be listening to this for some time to come, because you just kind of rapid fire. This is everything you need to know to be a better human. And you'll also teach better at the same time. So thank you all. Thank all of you for coming and spending your time with us tonight. Mr. Floyd, you're now part of the Slamily that we have right here. We hope you'll come back and join us anytime that you would wish. And we are so much better for the time that we spent together this night. So thank you, Mr. Floyd.